My formal presentation today will be on the article entitled Lots of Trouble. This article is based on an article from a magazine that was written about car manufacturers right before the Great Depression in our era hit. And what it talks about and discusses is how these car manufacturers were overproducing their vehicles in order to make their books look better. It involved the big three car manufacturing, and it led up to them having big inventories left over on their lots. So they were producing too many cars, which was driving down their costs, and in their mind it was bringing up their profits. This article did a lot of research and looked into why they thought this was beneficial and why they thought it was helping their books, and it looks at the pros and cons of what they may have thought was beneficial to them. Alright, so what's the main issue that we're dealing with here? They grouped together their excess production with their absorption costs, and in doing so they were able to boost their profits on the bottom line. This study was put together by two research professors, one from Michigan State and the other one was from a university in the Netherlands. They found that the actions that the companies were taking were actually more harmful to them than they were good. It ended up increasing their costs not only in advertising but also in upkeep of the cars. It would also eventually lead to a decrease in their brand image, but we'll talk about that here in just a minute. Alright, continuing about talking what the issue was. The thing that was killing these companies was their fixed costs that they had into each vehicle that they were manufacturing. They were paying for the facilities to be running, the machinery to be running, and not only were those running, but they had to have employees running them at the same time. So all of these were fixed costs that they were paying for per vehicle. So in their mind, they wanted to use absorption costs to be able to drive all of these fixed costs down. So in their mind, they were combining all of these to lower the overall cost per vehicle. So the more vehicles they produced, the lower their cost per vehicle was, and in their mind that was going to drive their bottom line up. There's also a financial accounting standard number 151 that was brought up in the article, and this basically talks about how companies can use absorption costing, but the standard is they have in quotes that it's normal capacity is allowed. But their problem is they never define what normal capacity is, and so it's very vague and there's gray area there. So this was their loophole into saying that they could use absorption costing in this scenario. Our second to last slide, we'll be talking about eroding brand image for the company or companies. When the dealers couldn't sell the cars that they were overproducing, they were having cars stack up on their lots, and that doesn't always look good. I mean, most car dealerships are usually pretty full, but when you have a ton of cars stacking up, it usually doesn't look very good because that means most people don't want to buy your car. As these cars were sitting on the lots, sun damage and weather erosion on the tires were causing them to have to put money back into the cars to replace tires, replace paint, and make sure that the upkeep on these cars were keeping them looking nice so that they could sell them for as much money as they could. It also drove up their costs in advertising because they were having to run promotion after promotion to try and advertise these cars to make them appealing to people. And not only were they doing that, but they were losing money by advertising them at a sell price. And when your car goes to auction, that means it doesn't sell fast as well. So that was making them look bad as well. J.D. Power and Associates in the article said they came out with a survey that said that it drove down these cars' popularity by 2%. And that may not seem like a lot, but nationwide it ends up hurting a business quite bad when you lose popularity points. The last slide is talking about the lessons that were learned from this article. Obviously, absorption costing can be beneficial sometimes, but a lot of times it leads companies to make bad choices in their production processes. One of the professors in the article at the end, he suggested adding an expense on their income statement that was for excess capacity, and this would help them kind of simulate having overproduction without actually producing the cars. So this would still have the same effect on their bottom line that they were looking for, but it would kind of be a virtual setting instead of an actual setting. They also suggested changing the pay structure for the incentives of upper management and also on the salesperson level. They had many suggestions with this that would help not focus so much on incentives that were based on absorption costing and such, that were focused on the bottom line. And at the end they talk about how greed was the ultimate driving force behind this, and how greed was the center of it all, and it made them focus more on themselves and the money that could be made instead of the customers and ultimately the company and how it would affect everyone involved.